In this video, we will look at some of the reasons why students might forget what they've previously learned, and how we, as teachers, can use information processing theory to help students learn and remember new information. Most researchers believe that long-term memory is capable of holding millions of pieces of information for very long periods of time. While it is not clear exactly how long, there is no danger of running out of room. However, like these dinosaurs, we can't always easily recall that information. Psychologists have numerous explanations for why people seem to forget. We will look at 5 of them. First, is the failure to retrieve. We can't locate the information stored in long-term memory. Perhaps we didn't file it in the proper folder, meaning we didn't attach it to the appropriate schema. Or we may have learned the information by rote without really understanding it, so it was never placed in a folder at all. Sometimes we can retrieve part of the information, but can't recall the rest, so we may fill in the gaps using our general knowledge and assumptions about the world. Even though the gaps are filled in logically, they may not be filled in correctly. Other times, something stored in long-term memory inhibits our ability to remember something correctly. This is likely to occur when pieces of information are similar to one another, and when they are learned by rote, such as words in another language. Some psychologists believe that information remains in long-term memory forever, but others propose that information may weaken over time, and perhaps disappear altogether, especially if it is not used frequently. In other words, use it or lose it. Memories of events, known as episodic memories, and remembering how to do something, such as ride a bike, known as procedural memory, seem to remain in long-term memory even though we don't use them. Whereas semantic memories such as facts, words, dates, formulas, and rules seem more susceptible to decay. Sometimes information never actually makes it to long-term memory. Perhaps attention wasn't paid to the information, so it never went beyond sensory memory. Or perhaps after attending to it, the learner didn't process it further, so it didn't move past working memory. Obviously, failure to store is not an explanation of information loss. However, it is one possible reason why students who think they learned something cannot recall it later. So, how can we help students encode information so they can retrieve it later? First, be sure to gain their attention. Use cues to signal when you are ready to begin. Move around the room and use voice inflections. Minimize distractions within the classroom. Perhaps Mr. Potato Head was distracted when dressing this morning. Present information in an organized manner. Show a logical sequence to concepts and skills. Both of these boxes have 25 dots, but it would be easier to remember the bottom box because it looks like the letter M. Communicate the belief that students can and should make sense of things they study. All 3 of these sentences have the same letters. Sentence 2 and 3 have the same words. In order to remember the first sentence, you would have to memorize 52 separate letters. To remember the second sentence, you would have to learn 10 separate words. The third sentence would be the easiest to remember as it is one concept that makes sense. Show students how to categorize or chunk related information. Present information in categories. Teach inductive reasoning. Encourage students to elaborate on new information. Help them connect new information to something already known, and to look for similarities and differences among concepts. Show students how to use coding when memorization is necessary. Mnemonics can provide a retrieval cue, or hint about where to look in long-term memory. There are several different types of mnemonics that students can use. Acronyms are formed by taking the first letters of the words to be remembered and using them to create a new word or phrase. As we learned earlier, it is easier to remember one word, such as homes, than it is to remember the names of the 5 Great Lakes. Acrostics are a variation of acronyms. They are silly sentences formed with words beginning with the same letters as the sequence to be memorized. Acrostics are a good choice when information needs to be recalled in a specific sequence, such as the order of the planets, or when the letters themselves do not form any recognizable words. Rhymes can be used or created to help recall more complicated information or procedures. In 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, is often taught in history class. Perhaps many of you also recite righty-tighty, lefty-loosey when trying to remember which way to turn a screwdriver. Encourage students to form mental pictures of objects or ideas that they are studying. Provide opportunities for repetition of learning. State important principles several times in different ways during the presentation of information. Have items on each day's lesson from previous lessons. Schedule periodic reviews of previously learned concepts and skills. Finally, provide opportunities for overlearning of fundamental concepts and skills. Use daily drills for arithmetic facts. Play Jeopardy and other games with content related to class.